Hello, I'm doing a mic check. Can anyone hear me?
Yes.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. The time is now 7:30 p.m. Welcome to the Old Bridge Township Zoning Board of Adjustment meeting, February 17th, 2022. I'm James Sullivan, as chairman of the board. I would ask you now to join me reciting the Pledge of Allegiance to our country. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the
of the United
States
States of America and
To
to
the
the republic
for
for which it stands,
one nation,
one nation, under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty
liberty
and justice
and
for
justice
all.
for all. Amen.
Adequate notice of this meeting of the Old Bridge Township Zoning Board of Adjustment has been provided in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, at least 48 hours prior to the commencement of this meeting, by permanently posting in the municipal complex an announcement giving the time, the date, the location, and the agenda of this meeting, also by mailing such announcement to the Home News and Tribune, filing such a copy of such announcement with the municipal clerk, and also posting the agenda on the township's website. May we have a roll call, Ms. C?
Yes. Mr. Connor,
Here.
Mr. Stoner is unavailable tonight. Ms. Chevalier,
Here.
Mr. Scogno,
Here.
Ms. Andrews,
Here.
Ms. Tessaverde,
Here,
Mr. Psychowski,
Here.
Mr. Kunswich,
Here.
Chairman Sullivan,
Here.
Mr. Dasty,
Here.
Mr. Clancy,
Here.
Mr. Gill,
Damien, you're still muted.
Here. I know, I was trying to get to it.
and myself, Ms. C. We can proceed.
Thank you. This meeting is being conducted electronically via the internet as a webinar. It's unique and it takes patience on all involved, as we no longer sit gather together in a courtroom at the municipal complex, but we do so from our own homes or offices. This meeting is also being televised by OBTV Channel 15, as well as YouTube Live. Remind those watching on any device, there's up to a 30-second delay in communication. This will be important to remember if you wish to personally join the public portion. Anyone calling in must lower the device, or otherwise you'll be confused by the time delay. I would ask all participants now within the meeting to silence their cell phones at this juncture to avoid any disturbances. The meeting will follow the protocols as always. We have a couple general housekeeping matters. They'll be followed by 2 applications this evening. I don't anticipate that they would be that lengthy that we would need a recess. Should we need a recess, certainly we'll advise the public beforehand and set a time to return. As in all applications, there's a public portion that follows testimony. If you have particular interest in either of the applications this evening and you want to ask questions or make comments via phone, I suggest that you take notes during the presentation so you will refresh your memory when you get live to the board. It's a perfect time now to access some pen and a piece of paper or something to write with. And right now, Ms. C, the assistant planner for the township, will give some advisories to the board and to those watching at home.
Just a few reminders. The zoning board members will be unmuted during the first half of the meeting when they will be required to vote on other agenda items. The zoning board attorney, zoning board chairman, zoning board secretary, and court reporter will remain unmuted throughout the meeting. Everyone else will be muted. Once the presentation for the application begins, the applicant's professionals will be asked to turn on their video and unmute themselves in the order in which they will testify. For the public, I will announce the last 4 digits of the caller's phone number to come forward and announce their name and address. I will also announce the last 4 digits of the next caller's phone number so that they will be prepared. We will share our screen to display any exhibits. The meeting information will be displayed on the screen multiple times during the meeting so that any resident who wishes to call and join the meeting can do so. Please be patient. You will have an opportunity to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. C. Board members, good evening, and good evening, Mr. Clancy and Mr. Dasty. We're going to follow the agenda as it's written. We're up to item number 3, and that's the minutes. Board members, they were the minutes from February 3rd, 2022. Hopefully everyone had a chance to review those. Absent any suggestions or changes, I would ask someone to move them for adoption.
Connor, motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second, Scogno.
Roll call, please, Ms. C.
Mr. Connor,
Yes.
Mr. Stoner, Ms. Chevalier,
Yes.
Mr. Scogno,
Yes.
Ms. Andrews,
Yes.
Ms. Testaverde,
Yes.
Mr. Psychowski,
I was not at that meeting, so abstain.
Mr. Kunstwich,
Yes.
Chairman Sullivan.
Yes. Item 4, there's one resolution tonight, board members. It's 47-2021Z, Michael Lombardo. Mr. Dasty or Mr. Clancy? I'm not quite sure who's going to handle it.
I am, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, everyone. So this is the Lombardo floor area ratio variance that the board heard at the last meeting. We prepared the resolution, forwarded it on to the board for adoption and memorializing the unanimous approval from the last meeting. And my usual way of trying to do things is I share it with the applicant's planner just to see if they have any questions or comments, and we shared it with Mr. Higgins. There were no questions or comments, so if it pleases the board, Mr. Chairman, you can ask for a motion to adopt the resolution memorializing the approval.
Mr. Dasty, when I read it, I didn't see two things. One, I didn't see that the new addition must match the current home. And secondly, the 1-year completion from the issuance of building permits.
Okay.
If we could add those, and then I'll ask the board if someone with those additions, would they like to adopt the resolution? I'll move it. Is there a second?
Second.
Was that Doreen?
Yeah.
Moved in second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Connor,
Yes.
Ms. Chevalier,
Yes.
Mr. Scogno,
Yes.
Ms. Andrews,
Yes.
Ms. Testaverde,
Yes.
Mr. Kunstwich,
Yes.
Chairman Sullivan.
Yes. Okay, board members, we'll go to our first application of the evening. It's 51-2021Z, Edward Sherman. This is the R20 residential zone located at 32 Annie Drive. It's requiring a C variance for a patio overhang. I don't see, is Mr. Sherman here or is? anyone-
Yes, I'm on.
You are,
I'm
sir?
on.
Okay, we don't, oh, there you are. Okay, now I see you.
Yeah, I'm
Are
on
you
the
gonna be
top
the
there.
one Testifying, sir?
Yes, I'm the homeowner.
Okay, the board attorney is going to swear you in, sir.
Okay, sure.
Mr. Sherman, can you raise your right hand, sir? Do you swear or affirm to testify truthfully in this matter before the board?
I do.
And can we please have your full name, sir?
Edward Sherman.
And can you spell your last name for us? Put your hand
S-H-E-R,
down.
S-H-E-R-M-A-N.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Sherman, the board has read your application, and it looks like you have a patio and you want to put a connecting permanent overhang attaching off your house. We've seen the plans. So basically what we'd like you to do is just explain to the board what you're doing and how you're going to accomplish this. We're going to ask Mr. Gill, the zoning officer, why you need a variance. And then you might have some questions for us, we may have some questions for you. And then, of course, we have to go to a public portion. And then after that public portion, at which time you can, I will ask you if you would like the board to take a vote. So you can take your own time on this, just kind of explain once again, we've seen the exhibits that with reference to the matter. So just in your own terms, you can go right ahead and tell us what's going on.
Sure. So I have a patio in my rear yard that I've had for 20 years. And what I'm trying to do is essentially put an overhang attached to the house over this existing patio. Essentially, it's just for sunshade because the sun sets in my rear yard. And, I've bought those, Home Depot and Costco units that break after 2 years. So I figured I'm going to build a permanent structure, to provide the sunshade in my rear yard.
And the dimensions, sir, for the record?
44 wide by 16 deep.
Okay. This structure will remain open, I assume?
Yes, it will. It's going to be open on all sides.
And I assume you probably want lighting in it, so I would assume there's a little electricity going to go into it?
No, I'm not putting electric in it.
No?
It's just going to be, a roof with, some posts. That's
Right,
it.
and it looks like it's shingled on the top?
Correct.
You have anything else you want to tell us at this point?
No, that's pretty much it. That's what I applied for.
Let me ask Mr. Gill his opinion here. Mr. Gill?
Mr. Chairman, good evening. Good evening, members of the board. As you correctly identified when you opened up the application, introduced that the property is located in the R20 zone. And I'm just going to pull up the denial letter here. The applicant is proposing, as he stated, a 44 by 16 roof overhang that spans essentially the rear of the home and then comes out 16 feet over an existing patio area. It will be approximately 35 feet from the rear yard where that minimum of 45 is required. For that reason, it needs a rear yard variance. I would call to the board's attention the survey. Hold on a second. The survey of the property. As you can see from the survey, when we're dealing with normal property, with a typical property, it's a nice rectangle. Here on any drive, there's a bit of a curve to the property, and it nears the intersection of Annie Drive and Cary Drive. So the property actually meets the setback. The property would meet the setback on the left-hand side, but because of the curvature of the rear property line, oh, not the curvature, but the bend in the rear property line and the unique shape of it in the rear, it actually doesn't, the entirety of the structure on the right-hand side, as you face it from the street, is in the setback violation. So there really isn't a different configuration that maybe the applicant could have considered to try to accomplish his goals and present a compliant application that we could have approved administratively. And for that reason, he's before us this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Gill. Board members, any questions of Mr. Gill while we have him? None? Okay. How about of the applicant, board members? Mr. Scogno, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Regarding the concrete footing, are you going to have to break through your present flooring of the cement patio?
Yes,
So, and you're looking to install 5 of those.
correct.
And do you feel the damage to the patio floor will be critically upset by placing 5 of these?
I think the way
Concrete?
I think the way it's gonna lay out is it's gonna be almost at the edge of that patio. So it's probably just gonna be a little patching around the opening for the footings.
Right. Right. And what about windows, things like that? What is your structure around?
It's open. The windows, I have a window on the back of the house.
Oh, so the whole thing's going to be open?
Correct. It's just a roof with some pillars.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's not going to be an enclosed structure.
No sunroof?
No.
No. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Basically, it's a permanent awning.
Exactly.
And as an agreement, should we approve, you would agree that you would be banned from enclosing that. You'd have to come back to the board in order to do anything further.
Of course. Sure.
Okay. Mr. Dasty, any questions for the applicant or Mr. Clancy?
I do not, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Gill covered the unique shape of the property and how a conforming application would not able to be filed. So I think we've covered it to that extent, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And board members, I'm sure you, looking at the survey, you saw what he was speaking about. And it wouldn't be possible to have for it to be squared off to the house and make that needed 45 foot. So the one side is okay, but the other one is not. Mr. Sherman, I don't think we have any other questions of you. I'm going to go at this point to the board.
Mr. Kunstwich has his hand up.
We didn't see your hand up, sir.
Oh.
That's what I asked for people to say something.
A quick question. Having been in the building trade for a number of years, been a contractor in the business, I see the draft that you've drawn up. It looks nice. And I guess this goes on to the building department after this, but I'm just curious about, how things are going to be, held down to that 2x12 header that you have at the end of your 2x8 rafters and your hurricane clips, every other one. Just curious, why not a hurricane clip for every rafter? And they're not that expensive. It's just a little piece of metal you buy at the Home Depot for a few dollars.
No, that's fine. I'll do that if that's required. It's just, that's the way, I put it together, but anything that's needed to, move this forward, if I have to put it on everyone, I'll put it on everyone.
Yeah, no, again, this would go before, if everything on this, the drawing that we see here is up to building specifications, and the building department will let you know. I just want to make sure that you do this. We've seen this rash of crazy winds in the last couple of years, things being ripped off of houses. I just want to make sure this doesn't go flying into your neighbor's yard at one time. I want to make sure you have the most secure structure that you could possibly put, being that it is an open structure as such. Wind can get underneath and lift these things off. And I just want to make sure that you're doing this thing in the proper general manner that's going to be the safest for all your community members around you.
Understood.
Good, Mr. Kutchwich? That's it? Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. Now I'm going to go to the public on this matter. It's 51-2021Z. It's located at 32 Annie Drive for patio overhang. If anyone wants to be heard in this matter, you can call one of the phone numbers that you see on the screen. Ms. C, is anyone in queue?
No, I don't see anyone.
Okay. We'll give this 30 seconds or so to see if we get anything. Once again, this is a 32 Annie Drive. Anyone has an interest in this matter, please dial one of the phone numbers now and you'll be recognized. While we're waiting, Mr. Sherman, is there anything else you want to let the board know?
No, not at this time. I mean,
Okay.
I do have a question,
Sure.
but
Let's see if anybody calls and then I'll get back to you.
Sure.
Anybody in queue yet, Ms. C?
No, Mr. Chairman.
I'll go to Mr. Dasty. Do you think we've given proper time?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, at this point, you can make a motion to close the a public comment.
Thank you. The public portion is now closed. Mr. Sherman, go ahead. What would you like to ask the board?
So I just wanted to, and I don't know if this applies to this board or not, but as far as when I did this application process, I applied for the zoning permit and the construction permit, right? I didn't hear anything back on the construction permit side. So is that something it's like a serial process that, this happens first and then that happens, or how does that work?
Mr. Gill?
Thank you, Chairman. So generally speaking, the fact that I denied the application doesn't prevent the application from continuing review if you've submitted the construction permits. So they likely have reviewed your application and they've likely made some opinions about it. If the only thing that was holding it up was the denial letter that was issued by my office, then unfortunately they wouldn't issue the permit. And that actually bodes well for you, because if the only thing holding it up is me, if the board votes in your favor, then it's fairly simple to reinvigorate that application. What I can do is I'll make a note of it, and tomorrow I will check to see what the status of that application is, and I'll correspond with you directly, regardless of what the board decides this evening.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
No problem.
Hey, board members, I'm going to go for a vote on this. If anybody has a question, please ask it now before I call for a vote. Mr. Scogno, go ahead.
Mr. Gill, I didn't see your denial letter. What was that representing?
The side yard, the rear yard setback, Leon.
Oh, that was his denial?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, what I read was the denial letter. I'm sorry, Mr. Scogno.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Leon? We're good? Okay. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, this is a simple, the issue here is it's a rear yard setback, it's 35 or 45 required, and it's a rather odd shape because it's a curvature to the rear, to the property, the entire property. So someone in the favor of moving for a C variance or allowance for this?
Move it, Scogno.
Is there a second?
Second,
Chevalier second.
Was that Ms. Chevalier? Yes? Or was that Ms. Testaverde?
Testaverde.
Okay, moved in second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Connor,
Yes.
Ms. Chevalier,
Yes.
Mr. Scogno,
Yes.
Ms. Andrews,
Yes.
Ms. Testaverde,
Yes.
Mr. Psychowski,
Yes.
Mr. Conswitch,
Yes.
Chairman Sullivan.
Yes. Mr. Des, do we have a resolution?
A resolution, sir?
Do we have one?
Do we have one prepared? No, sir.
Okay.
I'll have it done in time to be on the March 3 agenda.
Okay, very good. You can probably, Mr. Gill, Mr. Sherman, I should say, Mr. Gill is probably going to notify that there was an approval. So if the building department, you could probably wait a day or so and maybe call them. Would that be suggested, Damian, maybe next week, early next week?
Chairman, I was actually just about to say I was going to wait for you to finish. I was able to check the status of the permit. It looks like the only thing they denied it for was for the zoning. I have access to the record, so I was able to check it. So normally what would happen is a new zoning permit application would be filed. That would signal to my department and the building department that you've gotten the variance approval. I'll speak to Mr. Sherman tomorrow about that, and we can get that process started. Unfortunately, I can't issue the permit until I have the resolution, but we will work it out so that there's no lag post getting the resolution signed.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Gill. Mr. Sherman, you understand, right?
I do. Thank you very much.
Yeah, all we need to do is get the resolution now before they can issue those building permits. So as soon as that happens, you'll be able to get underway. Best of luck with your
Thank you. Do you know how long do you know how long the resolution usually takes?
the board attorney would be writing that, sir. And so as soon as he writes it, he'll probably have it ready for the next meeting.
I'll absolutely have it ready, Mr. Chairman. I apologize. I wasn't aware that we want, if you wanted them pre-prepared, next time I'll do that, sir. But Mr. Sherman, it will definitely be on the March 3 agenda.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Sherman, for appearing tonight. Good luck.
Thank you, everyone.
Good night, sir.
Good night.
Okay, I see no reason to take a break. We only have one other application. That's 05-2022Z. William Minigue. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. It's the R12 zone. This is block 18019 lot 40, located 7 Sally Court. This is a C variance for adding a sunroom to the rear of the home. Is Mr. Minigue? I'm looking. Oh, I see you down the bottom right, sir. Could you turn your video on and your sound?
Yes, sir.
There you go. Okay, sir. Are you going to be the only one testifying in this matter?
No, I have Brian Adams, my representing New Jersey Sunrooms on the line.
Okay, the board attorney will it's up to Mr. Dasty if he wants to swear you both in at the same time, but either way, you both have to be sworn.
I'll do it both at the same time, Mr. Chairman. I'll just ask that you each swear at the same time. So if I can see you, Mr. Montague, I see you, sir. And Mr. Adams is, I guess he's in a different.
He's right at the bottom.
Is he there, Mr. Minigue?
He is. I see him at the bottom of the screen. It might be.
Oh, okay, now I see him. Okay.
Okay. All right, gentlemen, if you can both raise your right hand, do you swear affirm to testify truthfully in this matter before the board? Mr. Montague, do you want to answer first, sir?
I do.
And Mr. Adams?
I do.
Thank you. Mr. Montague, can you just tell us your name for the record?
Sure. It's William Minogue.
I'm sorry, Minogue.
Mhm.
And Mr. Adams, can we have your name as well, sir?
Yes, my name is Brian Adams, ADAMS.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Montague, you're up, sir.
Okay.
You heard my introduction, Mr. Montague, Mr. Minogue. the previous application, I assume. So
I
I
did.
think we're going to have somebody testify as to, I guess, the architecture or the structure itself. But you can do so at your own pace, just like the last time. Put on the record what you want to put on the record. We'll ask Mr. Gill why you're here, and we'll follow the exact same procedures that we did in the last one, sir. So you can proceed at your own pace. And if you want to introduce your whenever you feel the need, you can introduce Mr. Adams, and we'll ask him questions as well.
Okay, thank you very much. So first, I'd like to start with my reading. So, good evening. On behalf of my wife and I'd like to extend our appreciation to the board for hearing our appeal for a zoning variance this evening. I'd like the board to know that my wife and I have lived in Old Bridge for over 28 years. We raised our daughter here, and God willing, we plan to live here for the rest of our lives. My wife and I have dreamed of adding a sunroom to our home for many years. We enjoy being outside whenever possible. And with the board's approval, we look forward to extending that time year-round. We intend for our sunroom to be the focal point for our home, where we hope to entertain family and friends for many years to come. Thank you.
Well, nicely stated.
So with that, I'd like to introduce Brian Adams. He's representing the company that I've hired to build the sunroom for me.
Great. Mr. Adams, I know you're under oath. Would you just tell the board, please, your professional affiliation and where your business is located?
Yes, I'm the technical director, New Jersey Sunrooms and Additions. The office address is 1199 Route 22 in Mountainside, New Jersey, 07092.
Thank you, sir. You want to tell us about the design?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
I'm assuming you want to tell us about the design, right, sir, and the features?
Yeah. So we just want my input on it. Just to give you a bit of background for my history, I've dealt with quite a few jobs in Old Bridge over the years. I've attended variances before to help people out on them. Under my direct supervision, and I've worked on probably, believe it or not, about 7,000 of similar rooms over the 30 years that I've been in America. And similar to that, I held the same position in England before moving here. Firstly, as Mr. Minogue has pointed out, the reason why he wants it, and the requirement is for a rear yard setback variance. Before I start on the actual room, I would just like to point out on the property survey, if you have access to that, the main thing about this is the very, very irregular shape of this lot in compared to the lots that are at the rear of this, where there are more rectangle, more square, and the houses are set way back from the rear property line. This house, and in the position of it, makes it near impossible to do any building. It's got a vast expanse to the left-hand side, probably 50% of the lot coverage, but it's unbuildable because that's where the garage is on that side. So this place where we're hoping to do it is the only place that it can go. So that's the hardship with this, the really, really bad, irregular shape of the lot. Doesn't afford him to build it anywhere else. So that's the lot and the reasoning for the variance. If there are any, do you have access to the drawings that I had produced?
We have everything that was handed to us.
I would like to say, obviously, that this sunroom is going to be 16 foot wide and 14 foot projection, which is a nice size for a family sunroom. It's a pre-engineered system. It will go on all new foundations and flooring, fully insulated. It will be a shingled roof to match in with the existing house in the same type and color. It would have mainly glass framework around it, all tempered safety glass where need be. The finish of it is vinyl, white vinyl framework on the actual sunroom, and that's about it. But I'm totally open to any questions that anybody will have as far as the structure goes.
Okay, the structure is going to be off of the ground, correct?
Sorry?
Is the structure going to be off of the ground?
Yes, it is. It's going to be on a raised deck. It's going to have pillars, sonotube concrete pillars going into the ground, and the flooring will be raised up off the ground. I can give you a size on that. It's not very high. It's somewhat about 18, 20 inches off from the grade.
Okay. All right. Board members, questions for Mr. Adams? Mr. Scogno, you're first.
Mr. Adams, you're aware that this survey is from 1994.
Yes.
Have there been any changes since then? This is 28 years old. I imagine this is when he first purchased the home. In other words, there's a pool back there. Is that
I believe, I do apologise, I interrupted you. I do apologise about that. I think Mr. Minogue will follow. I believe that pool's gone now, but can we go back to Mr. Minogue to answer that question?
Correct. The pool's been taken out. The pool was taken out last year.
Okay. Now the slab to the back, will that be affected at all?
No, it's going over the top of it. The slab's going to remain there.
So you're going to use the existing slab?
We're going to drill holes through parts of it to sink the sonotubes into the ground. So the basic slab will stay there, but obviously we've got to cut through that so we can go 3 foot down to put 14-inch round sonotubes to support the flooring.
Mr. Moga, how is the water table back there? Do you get a lot of water back there?
No, not there, no.
No flooding?
No, not to speak of. Not, the only time we had ponding at all was Hurricane Sandy.
Okay, thank you.
All right, you know what? Let me go to Mr. Gill so we know what the variance is first. That was my mistake. Mr. Gill, go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman. There are no mistakes, only happy accidents. Well, Mr. Adams took most of my thunder, so I won't belabor the point, but the denial letter reads as follows. Applicant proposes a rear sunroom addition 15 foot from the rear property line where a minimum 45 is required. So there is a deficiency of 30 feet. And like Mr. Adams had pointed out, I would bring to the board's attention that the lot is a legal conforming lot. It's a 12,000 square foot lot in the R12 zone. It's actually almost 13,000 square feet. But it does have a peculiar and irregular shape. It's somewhat sandwiched. And while we have lot width requirements, we do not have lot depth requirements. And in a typical scenario where we have a typical 12,000 square foot lot with an 80-foot lot width, which is what the code requires, we would expect to see, on average, a depth of 150 feet. And that's just typical. That's what you need if you have a minimum width lot that meets the requirements for the zone. In this case, if we were to add up the front yard setback, the approximate depth of the building, and then the balance left over for the rear yard setback, you find that we have a little less than 100. It's about 97 feet. That's not exact, that's a plus or minus. But with 97 feet where a zone contemplates generally 150, there are some issues with building front to back typically, and you're required to build side to side. Having spoken with Mr. Adams and the owner when they first made the application, the sunroom and their proposed location of the sunroom comes off the back of the house in complement to the existing architecture configuration, trying to affect something on either the left side or the right side of the home. Probably the left side is where it would be most appropriate, would change the character from the street view and really doesn't work for the interior configuration and the architecture of the home. So there'd be a lot more work involved to make something like that work. And for that reason, they're here this evening.
Thank you. Mr. Minow, what's behind your house? Is there a hedgerow? What runs across the rear of the property?
I'm sorry. There are arborvitaes that run across
Okay.
the back of my yard. They're rather high too. I want to say approximately 12 feet high.
And I asked that question because I saw that and I wanted you to explain that to the board. So the rear yards of the people that would be behind you, you're invisible to them, correct?
Yes, correct. It makes
Well,
a
for
nice
all intents and
natural,
purposes, right?
it makes a nice natural fence for both of us.
Right, okay. Board members, questions of either Mr. Adams or Mr. Miller?
Yes, question.
Go ahead.
Being that the structure is just slightly off the ground, Mr. Adams, how just about how far is it off the ground?
How far off the ground?
About
I'm
2
sorry?
feet, right?
I believe he
Is
said
that the question?
under
How
2
far off
feet.
the ground?
Yeah, how far is the space between the ground level and the bottom of the decking?
Just 1 second. I know it's, I'm just going to check that at the moment.
I'm
That
just.
is,
I'm-
12, 8, 20 inches above the grade to the floor level.
Are there plans to enclose that?
No.
So it's going to be wide open to,
Can we open, because it's better for, so that it'll have the existing concrete slab, which is at grade level, remain there. So that keeps it free from any vegetation growing through. So that helps. We've done them before without doing that, but this helps immensely. So that you're going to get no grass works, weeds or anything growing through beneath. And it will make it easier for any rain that did fall to go straight off of it.
Mr. Adams, there will be a lattice. It will be, it'll be breathable, but there will be a lattice.
Yeah, a lattice around the bottom, yeah. So, but that's just, it will be an open lattice.
yeah, and that would lead to my question, like, you have a structure off the ground, 18 inches, perfect place for critters, raccoons and other unneighborly patrons that want to come and live underneath your deck.
Yeah.
Yeah, as best as you can close that off, I would suggest. And again, this will go to the building department. So
Yeah, we do have
please
plans
keep that
to
in
do
consideration.
Yeah, we do have plans to do that. That's on Mr. Minogue's request to us to do that, yes.
Great, thank you.
Any other board member? Leon?
Question on the 220 amp. Is a purpose for that?
Yeah, that's for a heat pump. It's a self-contained heat pump to go in there. It's similar to the ones you have in hotel rooms, but they're self-contained, all in one unit. Doesn't have an outside compressor or anything like that. It's just to give some heat and cooling into the room when needed.
And each outlet would be 20 amp.
No, only the 20 amp is on the required for the heat pump. All the others would be standard amperage.
Good, thank you.
Okay, anybody, anyone else? Okay, Mr. Minogue, there's no plumbing going into there, right?
No,
Correct.
You just have lighting, I would assume, and you're going to put in the freestanding
lighting, yes.
AC, your heat pump. Yeah.
Yeah,
correct.
No future plans to enclose that room to add on to the space for the house?
No, it'll be just it'll just be the sunroom.
So you would agree to that in resolution that that could not be used as another bedroom or further living space other than what it's recreational
No,
use?
it'll just be a sunroom.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Dasty, anything of the applicant?
No, sir.
Okay. Anything else you want to tell us, Mr. Miller?
I don't think so.
Okay,
Thank you.
and Mr. Adams, are you satisfied that you on the record that you'd like to?
Yeah, I'm satisfied with the questions that have been raised and what I've explained. So anyone else who's got anything
Okay.
more, I'm quite willing to
All right.
answer any further questions.
Thank you.
Just a quick question.
Mr. Constance.
How is access to the sunroom made through the house?
It's directly through the house, into it. It's going to be open to the house.
There'll be no a storm door, a screen door, a sun door, a
No,
sliding
there's-
door.
No, building requirements don't. It's allowable under the building code to do that. Hence the need for additional heat and air in that corner, so that you're not pulling on the houses. So that heat and air conditioning is fully capable of heating and cooling that room without pulling on anything else from the main house.
Thank you.
Mr. Adams, there's an exit into the yard as well, correct? With a small set of stairs?
Yes. Oh, yes, there's an exit door and all the windows open up. So as far as escape routes, there is openings on all three sides of the room.
Okay.
And plus the door as well, yes.
And what, is it a single door or is this a slider on the rear?
It's a sliding door, 6 foot wide sliding door.
Okay. All right. Mr. Milk, if you don't mind, I'm going to go to public at this time, okay?
Please.
All right. This is matter 05-2022Z. This is located at 7 Sally Court for a sunroom to be attached to the rear of the home, requiring a C variance. If anyone has an interest in this matter, there's a screen in front of you right now, whatever device you're looking at with phone numbers, please call one of those numbers. We'll be glad to listen to your commentary or questions. Ms. C, is anyone in queue?
No.
Okay, we'll give it a little bit of time, and should anyone want to call, this would be the time if you have interest in this matter. Anything yet, Ms. C?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Dasty, have we given
That-
proper?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. That's ample time, Mr. Chairman. No one's called in, so you can have a motion to close the public comment.
Thank you, sir. The public portion is now closed. Board members, any questions before we go for a vote on this matter? I see no one raising their hand. Having said that, and you have nothing final to say, correct, Mr. Minot?
Correct. Thank you.
You would like us to take a vote to approve this, I would assume?
Please. Yes. Thank you very much.
Board members, this is a rear yard setback situation. Again, it's very similar to the other one, except in this case, it's 15 where 45 is required. I think it's unique that the property is unique. And of course, I think the hedgerow speaks to the applicant's position. Is someone in favor of moving this for approval?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second, Scogno.
Moved in second. Can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Connor,
Yes.
Ms. Chevalier,
Yes.
Mr. Scogno,
Yes.
Ms. Andrews,
Yes.
Ms. Testaverde,
Yes.
Mr. Psychowski,
Yes.
Mr. Konswitch,
Yes.
Chairman Sullivan.
It's great when you find you can use your own home for other things, and it sounds like a great idea, and I wish you luck on it. My vote is certainly yes. I don't believe we have a resolution prepared, correct, Mr. Dasty?
That is correct, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Then, Mr. Minook, the resolution for approval stating that obviously it's got to be, you got to complete it within 1 year, and you have to, and I'm sure you're going to do that, and you would have to get building permits, et cetera. It'll be ready for the next meeting, which is the 3rd, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, of
Yes,
March.
sir.
So unfortunately, you're going to have to wait till that time, and then we'll hear that resolution and approve that. I'm certain if we approve this. Okay, sir?
Thank you very much. I don't have to attend that next meeting then on the
You
3rd,
do
correct?
not, sir. You can be in touch with the building department, okay?
Okay, very good. Thank you so
Best of
much.
luck with your project. Mr. Adams, thank you for your appearance.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Board members, that is the extent of our agenda this evening. I know we have a secondary meeting. For the formality, Mr. Dasty, do we, because we have to go to another Zoom meeting, do we officially adjourn this and open a new one, or are we going to continue and come back after that?
Mr. Chairman, two items. One, we should have a general public comment, even if no one's on the call, so we should do that first. But then we are going to go into closed session because no formal action is going to be taken after the closed session. It will be for the next meeting.
Okay.
You could adjourn the meeting, have a motion to go into closed session, and then immediately make a motion to adjourn the meeting. We'll go into closed session, and that will end the evening, sir.
Okay. If anyone is listening in this evening and has any comments that they would like to present before the board, we'll certainly entertain them. We could put up that call list one more time. We'll give it about 30 seconds, 45 seconds. If you have a matter you'd like to speak to us about for general public comments, please call one of the numbers. We'll be glad to listen. Board members, as you're aware, while we wait for the 30 seconds, 45 seconds, we will be closing this meeting out. And then you should have been sent another link for another meeting. I'm going to get to that motion in a few moments after we finish with this matter first. Ms. C, is anyone in queue?
There's no one, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, just a point of clarification for logistics.
Yeah.
Are we leaving this Zoom, going
Yes.
into the other Zoom, and then after
Yep.
that coming back to this to close the meeting?
No,
Yeah.
we're done. We're going to close this out, but we will be shutting this down, and you have another link to go to, and we'll open up a discussion under that other link.
Understood. Thank you. I was thinking it might be similar to like what the Board of Education does, where they go to a closed session within the meeting and
We
leave
could
the
have
room,
done,
come
we
back.
could have done it if we were live in the courtroom, but we can't do it because we're not.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Is anyone that has called in, Ms. C?
No.
No. Mr. Dasty, I've given them sufficient time, correct?
Absolutely, sir.
Okay. Okay, board member, we haven't heard anyone, there's no other general public comments. I'm certain that if anybody has any other comments, they would make them in the next Zoom meeting. I'm going to ask for someone to, Ms. Testaverde, go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. It says 9 o'clock. So are we taking a 45-minute break or?
No, we're going to go, it was anticipated that the meeting might go longer. No, we're going to go right to it because the public
Okay.
it's a closed session. Although there'll be minutes, the public isn't going to be part of that meeting. So.
Mr. Chairman, if
Go
I
ahead.
may, I will be opening that session. So I will be opening that as soon as we close here.
Right.
Thank you. Okay, thank
We
you for
do
clarifying.
have to sign on again, though, do we not? The new link.
There is a separate link, yes.
Correct. Okay. All right.
Okay.
So everybody's got that, right? We're gonna, I'm gonna move for an adjournment now. If someone would like to make one.
Chairman, if I may really quick,
Go ahead, Mr. Gill.
I didn't get a second link and I wasn't aware of the closed session. I don't have to attend that, do I, Natalie?
I don't believe you were.
I don't believe so. No.
Okay, great. Then
It was a D variance issue.
I understand.
Okay, so, is there a
Motion
motion?
to adjourn, Scogno?
Okay, is there a second?
Second, Psychowski.
Roll call on the adjournment, please.
Mr. Connor? I believe he has already left
Okay,
this
he's probably
meeting.
gone to the next one. Okay.
Ms. Chevalier?
Yes.
Mr. Scogno?
Yes.
Ms. Andrews?
Yes.
Ms. Testaverde?
Yes.
Mr. Psychowski?
Yes.
Mr. Kunstwich?
Yes.
Chairman Sullivan?
Yes. All right, thank you, everybody, for watching this evening. We'll see you next month on March 3rd zoning meeting. Good night, everyone.
Good night.